So, I think that we can all agree that the purpose of advertising is to help your brands grow in both the short and the long term. But to do that, they need to gain attention. Now, I know that you've all been outside having a drink, so to make sure I've got your attention, I'm going to do a little bit, and only a little bit, of audience participation. So are you ready?
Ready.
Yeah. Knock knock. The uninvited guest. The uninvited guest is you. Now, obviously not tonight. You've all been invited tonight.
There are some.
Some interlopers, but really, it's the inconvenient truth that there are no consumers out there just waiting to open the door and see our advertising come through. Really, actually, we are the uninvited guest. So my presentation is going to be about some top tips to help you get through that door. There are going to be three key reactions as you rock up. The first one is going to be, who the hell are you? Second one is, why are you here? And then the third, the more resigned, well, now you're here, you might as well be useful. If it works. There you go. So, first of all, who the hell are you? You're probably not going to turn up like this. Actually, consumers' minds are going to be more like this guy, the boring salesman, turning up, uninvited, probably looking a little bit dull. So really what we want to do is make sure that you come dressed in your best clothes in ways that people can understand and recognise as you. You spent a lot of time, money and energy building up these distinctive assets. Make sure that people know that it's you that's arrived. So you're there, but why? Why are you here? You need to understand the mood of that party. You need to make sure that you know people's motivations for being there. And they will differ depending what platform you're on. So make sure that you've taken the temperature of the room and actually what you're delivering is something relevant to the vibe of that platform. Not to say that you can't be different or that you can't dress up in your clothes, but just make sure that you are cognizant of how people are feeling there. Because otherwise, we're, or you and your brands are going to be responsible for the increasing shutting of the door and not letting anybody else in. Please do not be responsible for the rise of the ad blocker. And how can we make sure that that happens? Well, now that they're there, you need to make sure that you're useful. And I think this is really incumbent on us to be a useful guest. But what's that mean? This is a great quote. So we believe that if you're going to invite yourself into someone's living room, you have a duty not to shout at them or bore them or insult their intelligence. On the other hand, if you are a charming guest, get the analogy, and you entertain them or amuse them or tell them something interesting, then they may like you a bit better, and then they may be more inclined to your brand, to buy your brand. And that's really what we're doing, making you a more useful guest. But why? Why bother? Why strive to be a useful guest? Well, ultimately, it's about gaining attention. And in order to do that, we need to use the platform, the technology that's available to us, both in order to know who is there, but also to do something in an inventive, a new and exciting way. In the same way, actually, as we've always used advertising, to take a situation, a human insight, and to give it a new lens, to make sure that we're, like a comedian, just putting a different point of view out there. Because there are lots and lots of different things that will stop us, limit us gaining this attention. In our tracking, we've seen a 10% drop in recognition over the last 5 years. And that's not just because consumers aren't doing research properly anymore. This is because actually a lot of them aren't paying attention to the TV all the time. I'm sure we've all done it. You know, watching something and then, oh, yeah, just check what's happening in the weather. Or, oh, Facebook, somebody's got married, somebody's broken up. that's going to happen. Or indeed, you're in your news feed. How are we going to stop them on our ad? And of course, if the tales of the last week that's been elucidated are not enough to take their attention elsewhere, then actually the 300 plus hours of YouTube uploaded every minute may be drawing their attention much more so than the messages that we're delivering. So all these things are conspiring to limit attention. How can we get past that? Well, of course, we need to disrupt the norm. We need to do something different. And here is an example from Burger King of them really taking what they know to be the interests of their audience, so 16 to 24s on YouTube, and thinking, well, why are those guys there? What are they doing? They've made 64 different ads based on what those people are searching for. So here's one based on the search attack animal. Yes, that's what they're looking at.
YouTube ad.
I hate these things. This guy's just trying to watch a graphic animal attack video, but no, I have to sit through an ad. Ugh, stupid, incredible deal.
So they've understood the dynamic. People are on YouTube to get entertainment. They've also knowingly given a nod to the fact that advertising's irritating, and they've come up with this really nice and shareable way of talking to their consumers. And sound, when it happens, is a great way of actually getting people on TV up from that second screen and pay attention to what's happening. And the reason for that is because due to evolution, any weird sounds off camera, the rustling in the bush, you've got to pay attention, otherwise some lion is going to come and eat you. So, we're all attuned to this. And that means that you can use it to great effect. Now, where's Liz? There's Liz. I'm about to play your favourite ad. And for those of us who are sort of now at that age, it's a perfect encapsulation of how our children feel about us, but also the inner core that we might actually think we still possess, foolishly. But of course, it does draw you to it, and every time I now hear that, I can already feel myself going, yeah. But the good thing about sound is that you can also use it as a really powerful, emotionally engagement tool. So we did a study for the Advertising Research Foundation in New York, looking at facial coding and indeed biometrics as well, to understand whether it's sound or visuals that really gives you the edge in terms of engagement. Got a lot of questions about soundtracks and what should be done. And here you can see the overall emotional engagement through one of the ads that we showed, one from the Super Bowl, and you can see a really good trace on that audio. And actually, that knocks the socks off visual only. So not for all ads, but for many ads, it's the audio that is giving that emotional edge. So let's think about it in terms of getting attention and then generating engagement. But you've got to think carefully about your music, because what works in TV doesn't necessarily work when it comes to YouTube. So in a big study that we did with YouTube, we looked at 650 videos that were on and tried to work out what it was that caused people to stick with an ad or to skip it. And actually, if you used an action-oriented theme, like we just saw with the TV, worked for heads up there, but here it's one of the things that triggers almost immediate skipping. And that's also true of calming and relaxing. So if John Lewis didn't have the hype, would they have made it onto YouTube? Probably not. Actually, if we think about and hypothesize why people are on YouTube, generally, as shown by the Burger King ad, for a bit of a laugh, then music that indicates that you might be getting a joke is something that actually creates and keeps engagement and stops you moving towards that skip button. So make sure that you're thinking about the right music for the right platform. The opposite of sound, of course, is silence. And actually, 85% of all video viewed on Facebook is done without turning the music on. So in that way, we need to think about how we're going to draw people in. And again, think about subvert the norms of the platform. And here's one that I think works brilliantly for silence. So subtitles now becoming ubiquitous on Facebook. These guys actually claim they invented it. Maybe slightly overclaim there. But actually taking what people are expecting and making it work for you is a really good way of gaining attention. There are more traditional ways of they're doing that in a visual way. So puppies, boobs, and babies are the traditional methods of gaining attention, and those still work. And they're pretty much going to work forever. But we need to really think about how to use it wisely, because when we're on these different platforms, we have different time frames in which we need to grab people's attention. So there's been some studies by Facebook looking at when they get optimum brand impact, and actually that's after 3 seconds of viewing. So what are you going to do right at the start to make sure that we're selling the right attributes and values for the brand? And of course on YouTube it's all about that 5 seconds of magic at the beginning. How do we stop the itchy finger? How do we stop that almost Pavlovian reaction to advertising and keep them there? One way, or not, as the case might be, is shall I put my brand right at the beginning of a YouTube ad? Because then at least I know that if that itchy finger really takes over, at least I've got my brand out there. But actually by badging it in this way, it is one of the things, again from that YouTube study that we did, that actually causes people to be more likely to skip the ad. So what other ways have we got to actually get the brand in there? And we know that you don't need to badge something to be able to get a brand benefit. Actually, if you make it integral to the story, or indeed bring that brand story to life, as Mario Kart did so amazingly well, by actually having a Mario Kart race down Lombard Street, the squiggliest road in the world, and Mario Kart is just there from beginning to end. You couldn't do that story without the brand being in it, but you didn't have to slap a big old brand at the beginning. So think about clever ways that you can make brand the hero of the story. The other thing to think about is actually what are you delivering your messages on? These days, 50% of all YouTube video is viewed through the mobile. So you really need to think about how to optimize ads for that context. One thing is about making sure that it's short. Less than 30 seconds seems to be the best way of going about it. And actually, in studies that we've seen for YouTube again, if you make it formatted for the mobile environment, come on, clicker. If you make it formatted for the mobile environment, rather than just playing the desktop version, you get an 18% uplift in brand metrics. So again, just think about the fact that a screen this size is really quite different for something that's intimate and small. And then, of course, we have Snapchat. Thank you, Ben. It's fun, it's disposable, it's instantaneous, and it's chock-a-block full of 15 to 24-year-olds. Increasingly so, 25, 34-year-olds coming on board, but they're all pretty much there for the same motivation at the moment, and that's just to have fun. So you need to think carefully at this moment in Snapchat's evolution as to whether your brand should be there. Don't just get enticed in because it's the new shiny thing that everybody's talking about. Should you be there? Will you be successful there? Is it the right thing to do for your brand? But if you have a silly streak, if you have joy at the heart of your brand, then certainly go for it, as long as the brand is integral to what you're doing. So you couldn't have this without Cream Egg being there, and they've used it really cleverly to make sure that it's at the heart of what they're doing. So, how can we get you invited in and get you invited in more often? Make sure that we know who you are, that you're recognisably somebody that I may want to invite into my living room. Make sure that we think about people, why people are on those platforms. Make sure we understand their motivations, and then we behave accordingly. But if you're going to be there and you've got through the door, then you've got to make sure that you're going to be useful. So be as entertaining, as creatively engaging, or as useful as you possibly can be. And then we can get you through the door next time. Thanks very much.